Hello, all you fanatics of the campus gridiron. Glad you could join us here for another edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Whether it's the touchdowns on and off the campus gridiron or the extra points in the recruiting wars, let's start gabbing. Welcome back, all you campus fanatics. Glad you could join us for another edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. I am, of course, Mr. CeeLo here. Glad you could join us yet again, and here we are having another review of Championship Week. As you guys have already seen, I've done a review of the Oregon-Washington game, which is to be held tomorrow night. Friday night. And we've got the Saturday big matchup, which is what I call probably the one game that could possibly throw this entire college football playoff into chaos. Not from my point of view, because I'll let you guys know at the end of the show what I really think about what should happen in the college football playoff. Nobody's going to like what I got to say, because here's the reality of it. I don't care about this whole SEC nonsense. So if you think the SEC is the toughest conference, I don't care what the rankings say. Three of the five teams are overrated. But with that being said, let's get into it. Undefeated number one Georgia takes its 29-game winning streak to the SEC title game in Atlanta against 11-1 Alabama, whose only blemish is against number 7 Texas, which that will come into play here in a matter of moments. But let's take a look. A little tidbit of information before this game. As the Alabama Crimson Tide are undefeated in Atlanta. I didn't know that. But then I had to look back and it said Georgia has never beaten Alabama in an SEC title game. Even the year they won the national title. And that is true. And which I tell Georgia fans all the time, Jameson Williams' injury is the only reason why you won the national championship. And let's not forget, Henry Ruggs was hurt in the SEC title game. So, Georgia fans, while you sit here and spout off, I'm about to go three-peat, you should be no-peat. It's all a matter of luck. So, while you're boasting and bragging, you ain't all that. You're just a product of circumstance, or a victor of circumstances. But let's get into it. Let's look at it from the Alabama side. Now, this would be an ultimate victory if the Alabama Crimson Tide pulled the upset. To me, it's not. Georgia's really not showed me anything this year. You know, that's why you have the Missouri move as such a high-ranking team, because they played Georgia so efficiently in Athens. Impressive, but I was not impressed with Mizzou, because the fact of the matter is they lost that game themselves. And honestly, Missouri didn't have one win on their schedule that I just kind of looked up and went, pretty good win. And you lose at home to LSU. You beat Kentucky in Lexington. Boo-hoo. Not impressive. You blow out Tennessee in your building. That's not impressive. Tennessee was overrated. You beat Florida. Overrated by 2 points. You blow out Arkansas. Big deal. I mean, there's not a win on here that's impressive at all. You're just not. I mean, and this is just where I'm not happy with the way, you know, the rankings are. It's just not. But let's get into it. We're not here to talk about Mizzou. They're non-existent in all of this. But looking here at the Crimson Tide and what they've done, you know, their resume is not that bad, but you look at what they've done this season, and for the most part, they struggled. The Tide struggled trying to find a groove, and Jalen Milroy finally got the job after offensive coordinator Tommy Rees and Nick Saban decided, hey, let's try this. Yeah, we're sitting here looking at this. You go through that phase after the Texas beating at 34-24, South Florida, the 17-3 move, and then you see Ole Miss 24-10, Mississippi State 40-17, Texas A&M 26-20. This is kind of where the line of where old Alabama or old 2023 Alabama to new 2023 Alabama is about to start. Because then they beat Arkansas 24-21, then they beat Tennessee 34-20, then they beat LSU 42-28, then they go to Lexington 49-21, Chattanooga 66-10, and then that awful performance at Auburn 27-24 where it was like, it's kind of like, dude, really? And I don't know. It was just, you don't lose a game like that. That is just, oh man, you don't really want to go and speculate about it, but the reality of it is, yeah, both teams, whether it's Georgia or Alabama, they both overlooked who they were playing. They did. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They both overlooked who they were playing, and both teams, it nearly cost them. These are two rivalries. Whether it's the Iron Bowl or clean old-fashioned hate. This is, this is tough. And the thing is, when you put these two teams together, there's always something that's going to happen. There's always something that's going to happen. And it's possible we could have another classic. But then again, you're seeing players from Alabama finally emerging. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at the tape. Let's take a look at the tape as a whole. Alabama's got some really good players. When you look at Jace McClellan, of course Jalen Milroe's the guy. We know that. But it took him a while to get his quarterbacking abilities in lock, or as I like to say, in flow, or rolling. Get it? Roll time. He was very impressive running the football. I mean, I remember that that LSU Alabama game was just it was an entertaining game, but it looked more like a Big 12 game, Pac-12 game. No defense. Really, no offensive things stick out when you look at Alabama. It really does not. Nothing really sticks out. This is kind of like your old vintage Nick Saban type of team. They play quality defense, and they beat you with so many different things. But here's the crazy thing. They have a ton of players, and they've got one player in Kool-Aid McKinstry that has, they've got two players, and surprisingly, you look at the rest of this team, you got Chris Bracewell and Dallas Turner. Of course, Nick Saban runs that 3-4, patented 3-4, which Georgia runs. That they both have 8 sacks. And as a team, they have 36 sacks. We all know Alabama loves to rush the passer. We know that. And when you start looking at this team, that's what they like to do. And to me, Georgia has not faced anything like this yet. They have not faced an animal like the Alabama defense. And in turn, I will say that the LSU defense does present some of the same problems Georgia does. But here's the thing. This is what I say about it. When they play Texas. Justin Milroe looked different. Do I think they would beat Texas this time? No, I do not. Because here's the thing. To me, Quinn Ewers is a better quarterback that they faced than Carson Beck. Carson Beck is not what I call he's okay. I mean, people are going to say he's throwing for 3,500 yards, but he doesn't scare me as a guy that can run your offense. Georgia's going to have to throw this thing down the field to beat Alabama. They're not going to be able to do this stuff that they did. Let's go back to the national title game that Georgia won. 2 big plays won the game for Georgia. A pick six and a broken tackle for a long touchdown against Alabama. That's what won the game for you. I mean, what else do you want me to say? I mean, right now, all Alabama has to do is keep its top players healthy. And honestly, Jalen Milroe stays in this game. I don't see any reason why this can't be a win for the Tide. But I will say this. Let's look at a stat that's very important. It's definitely concerning because Milroe's been sacked 34 times this season. 34. Now, granted, a lot of this is because he tries to elude and run away. But I think this is what I would do if I was Georgia. Alabama. If I'm Alabama, you got Jermaine Burton and you got Isaiah Bond, who is showing themselves to be some serious weaponry down the field. Of course, Burton's only 6 foot, and Isaiah Bond's only 5'11". Oh, he's from Beaufort, Georgia. Shout out. And outside of these guys, it's a lot of people are not favoring this team because if you look at it, he's only got. Let's look at it theoretically. Milroe's only got 158 completions out of 238 attempts. He has 126 carries on the season. This is what's going to hurt Georgia. If they get to a point where they're blitzing crazy and Milroe throws a nasty deep ball. He throws a nasty one. It's very good. If Georgia plays a lot of that man coverage and these safeties are coming up, that means you're going to have that means you're going to have Burton and Bond one-on-one with Georgia's DBs and guys like Tyke Smith, Javon Bullard, Malachi Starks, and Kamari Lassiter. These guys, they're good players, don't get me wrong. But one-on-one. Now, they've got 8 interceptions in between them. But these guys, between Burton and Bond, these guys track the ball so well. Georgia's probably going to play that game. Now, I'm not saying Jalen Milroe is C.J. Stroud. But I'm going to say this, in that I got more faith in their receivers than I do Georgia's secondary. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Tommy Rees is calling this. And if any of you guys know, I know Tommy Rees exceptionally well because I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Bruh.
And it's going to be insanely interesting to watch and see how this game materializes because me personally, I'm actually interested in watching to see whether or not there's going to be a lot of shots taken down the field. And I'm looking at here, and this is the first time since I can remember when I didn't see a Alabama running back that was not over 1,000 yards. So it's going to be interesting to see how Tommy Rees deploys his arsenal. But I think ultimately what's going to happen in this game is Alabama's going to create turnovers with that pressure because Carson Beck hasn't seen that before. He has not seen a defense that has been that good. Georgia Tech was the best defense he saw. Just playing. Now let's look at it from the Georgia side. As we all know, we got Dawan Edwards leads the team in rushing, and this is like another thing I've seen. They've got two guys that are primary ball carriers, and Dawan Edwards and Kendall Milton. Kendall Milton has 644 on the ground, and both are in double digits in touchdowns. Looking at, of course, most of the people know about Brock Bowers, and that's what you think when you think Georgia Bulldogs. You think about Brock Bowers and coming back and he really still kind of work his way back in. It could be a coming out party for him, but I don't see Nick Saban allowing this guy to beat him. I don't see it. I think Nick Saban is such a great coach, and he understands matchups, and he understands what he needs to do. And now, to me, Georgia's got to get the ball to they've got to figure out creative ways to get Brock Bowers involved. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They really don't have a lot of guys out there. I mean, you can say guys like McConkey and Lovett, but they're not the game breakers like Brock Bowers is. These guys. Oscar Delp did a pretty good job. The kid out of Cumming, Georgia. He could possibly be a wild card here, being that Brock Bowers is here. But you really haven't seen much out of Oscar Delp since Brock Bowers got back. And I think that's a huge injustice. To me, if Georgia wants to win this game, they have to go double tight end, and they have to feature Delp and Brock Bowers. I don't think they will. Because I think they're going to try to make this about Brock Bowers. A way that I think Georgia can win this game, and I don't think they will. I think Nick Saban's going to continue to employ his umbrella effect, much like I said about Washington, because they're not afraid of what Carson Beck can do down the field. They don't, and they, like myself, don't have faith in him. And people are going to say, well, he completed 72% of his passes. Where a lot of his passes were within 5 yards, like I said about Bo Nix. It's not hard to really imagine that he could take a shot down the field. But at the same time, it really is in my eyes. It's hard for me to see Carson Beck trying to take a shot down the field against this Alabama defense, because they're going to be coming after him. Now, granted, Georgia's offensive line is exceptionally good, considering he's only been sacked 8 times. And that's kind of hard when you look and you see you got two backs between them with 1,400 yards. But as a team, they've ran for over 2,200 yards. So that offensive line is pretty darn impressive. And they've tried to minimize Carson Beck's passing attempts, but they're right there at, I would say, 40-60 as far as running and throwing the football. As I said, Brock Bowers leads the team in reception with 51 grabs, and Dominic Lovett is right there at 49. So they've got two guys that are right there at 50. And like I said, Oscar Delp came on. He's got 3 touchdown grabs on the year from 20 grabs. So I think if Georgia's going to win this game, Delp's got to be featured. Because now that Bowers is back, you forget about Delp. Delp's got wonderful size. I mean, we talk about Bowers being 6'4". But here's the thing about Delp. And this is a guy, when he comes back next year, he's going to be exceptionally well-rounded. He's 6'5", 245. So you got two guys in excess of 6'4". You have to use them. You have to go out there and use them effectively for what Alabama does. Now, here's the thing. These two linebackers have not met with the physicality these linebackers and safeties for Alabama comes with. So that's going to be something different. It's been 2 years since Georgia's had to meet up with Alabama. So, but up until now, it would have been 2 years. They haven't met with them since 2021. So this is going to be something different. They're going to have to be prepared for the physicality that Alabama brings. Now, on the other hand, Alabama hasn't met the same kind of physicality that Georgia brings. Georgia brings almost the same kind of physicality. So it's going to be interesting to see how well they hold up. But I ultimately think that this is going to be one of those games. Beck is reckless with the ball. He hasn't been all year. But I believe this is going to be one where he's reckless with the football. And he's going to make mistakes. And I think ultimately it costs this Georgia team the 29-game winning streak. And I said at the beginning of the season, I didn't think Georgia was that great. And I think ultimately they lose this game. I think Milroe is too much for Georgia's defense to handle because we've seen in past any quarterback that can run against Georgia or Alabama causes them problems. And if the quarterback has accuracy. Now, do I think Milroe has accuracy? I think he throws a hell of a deep ball. One heck of a deep ball. And I think that's going to be the difference in this game. Now, to the pick of the game. I think this is going to be a game where Georgia's going to come out trying to run a lot of different sets and run a lot of different things to keep Alabama's defense off balance. And that's what you have to do. Meanwhile, I think Alabama does the same thing. Trying to do a lot of quarterback sweeps, a lot of keeps, and a lot of read options and plays where they keep a lot of receivers moving around. I think Alabama's going to try and keep Burton and Bond in motion and try to keep that Georgia defense off balance. I think Jace McClellan is going to be big in this game. 5'11", 210-pound running back out of Alito, Texas. I think this guy has a big impact because what's going to happen is Georgia realizes that Milroe's going to run the football. Do I think Milroe's going to do what he did in the LSU game? I don't think so. I think what happens is Georgia's going to be so focused on Milroe getting out of the pocket that McClellan's going to be able to run free probably majority of the first half. Then the second half they come back with Milroe and possibly some speed sweeps with the receivers, and it turns into a shouting match for each team. And I think Alabama comes out on the end because they're going to be able to throw the ball down the field. I think Brock Bowers is not going to be existent in this game. I think if Georgia's going to win this game, Beck's going to have to look for Delp. It's going to have to be Delp because the reality of it is they're not going to let Brock Bowers beat them. It's not going to happen. And I know a lot of people say, well, if you think that's what they're going to do, then what's going to stop Georgia from stopping Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bond? Well, easy. There's two of them. Two of them. And they're deep threats. These guys, what makes these guys dangerous is they're able to get open when Milroe gets out on the edge. Now, do I think Georgia has the speed to track them down? Absolutely, but I think the difference is Milroe is going to be. I have more faith in Tommy Rees calling. I have more faith in Tommy Rees making the right play calls than I do Carson Beck making the right plays against a good quality defense. I just don't have any faith in him. This is the first time he's been under fire, and this is going to be the first time he's been under fire with an elite, intelligent defense. And I think that Alabama wins this game and win this game close. I think they win it close. And it breeds a lot of speculation come Selection Sunday. Which brings me to my point. There are a lot of people that are going to disagree with what I'm about to say, but I don't care. Because the fact of the matter is, Nick Saban said it's disrespectful and whatever you want to say. Nick, here's the reality. You can say whatever it is you want. People like me don't care because the SEC has been getting a pass for so many years. And the fact of the matter is, my friend, you had your shot. For you to sit there and say it's disrespectful, look at how many times the Big 12 got left out, or the Pac-12 got left out, or the ACC got left out. Pac-12 is the best conference in the country this year, and they're going to get a team. It took them being the best conference in the country. You ain't got the best conference this year. You ain't got a bottom feeder like Colorado. You don't. You don't. So stop it. Stop it. Now, this is the reason why I say Alabama beating Georgia doesn't constitute them going. It doesn't constitute Georgia going. Texas beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Alabama beat Georgia on a neutral field. Well, arguably in their backyard, but you're going to see more. You're going to see a balance. In Georgia, this is why you don't go. Because you ain't a conference champion. Alabama's going to go above you regardless of how the polls stand out. People can sit there and say, but 29 wins in a row. Guess what? You didn't win the last one. Too bad. So sad. Bye-bye. It's over. Bye-bye. And this whole talk about if Florida State or Michigan wins, or they don't win big, they don't deserve to go. No, they went undefeated. You didn't, Georgia. You didn't, Alabama. You don't get to take their spot. The whole point, like I said in the other show the other night, you don't do like Greg McElroy was saying. You can put up an argument for Georgia going if they beat, Alabama going if they beat Georgia. That's great. But let's always rewind back. You lost to Texas. That counts. I've talked to people and they disagree, but here's the reality. Just like Greg McElroy said, if the point is you're taking the 4 best teams, then you should have just took the 4 best teams on paper at the beginning of the season and let everybody else play for the other bowls. The whole point of playing the season is to see who played the best season, the 4 best seasons, and you send them on. Texas beat Alabama. Alabama beat Georgia. Doesn't matter. Texas won the game against Alabama, and if you were to put Texas in a ring against Georgia, more than likely, they're going to beat Georgia. Yes, I stake my claim on that. Because if Alabama comes out and does what they're supposed to do, that rules all that out. And I know what a lot of people are going to say, well, Alabama was a different team. Well, sorry. Alabama, you should have beat them. It's not Texas's fault that you weren't ready, is it? A win is a win. Win's a win. Ain't that what y'all say, Georgia fans? A win's a win. So why do you think you deserve to get in and you lost? Last game of the year. We don't want you in the championship if you're going to lose the last game. No. You don't have no more right to get in than Alabama does. Alabama's got more of an argument than you do. Yeah, they do. Because they beat you. And the only reason Alabama's not going is because they got beat by Texas, who is another one-loss team, given they beat Oklahoma State. The only argument Alabama has to go into the championship is if they get help. And then, I think it was Booger McFarland said it best. Alabama hope that Oklahoma State beats Texas. Because outside of that, you can't justify being ranked ahead of them because they beat you head to head. They beat you head to head. Better hope you win, Georgia. Because you're done, you're done, you're done. Woof, woof. FDD, FDD. Guys, let me know what you think. That's going to do it for us here at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Let me know what you think. Go to the site and let me know who you got in this game. Guys, I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be a good one, even though I'm not a fan of the Southeastern Conference and their fan base because, they swear up and down every year they got the best conference, and they don't. They may have the best 1 or 2 teams, but they don't have the best or the toughest conference. That's a bunch of garbage they've been spitting since 2000 actually, and it was actually true back then because they actually played defense. And some of that's debatable because they didn't have good offense. Their defense looked so good because their offense was so bad. And as I said, I'm not here to make lifelong SEC fan bases mad, but I am a individual that likes to tell the truth. But until the next time, you guys, when you're out there grilling up on a big time campus tailgate on a Saturday afternoon, remember, same Gap channel,